start.
Okay, let's do it. Hi.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here
Uh,
with you.
Welcome everyone for another episode of Mother Tales. I'm so excited to have Amelia today. She's going to talk about nutrition, food, how to heal with food. And Amelia is a nutritionist, and she will tell us more about her story. So welcome, Amelia. Please, if
Thank you.
you would like to introduce yourself, tell us about you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me. Laura has been a very precious relationship in my life and continues to be. And all the work and the way you stay the course with your entrepreneurship and the work you do with mothers and babies. And it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you do. I'm so glad to be here. And yeah, this has truly rebuilt my body and my life. So the things that I'm telling you, I would never ask a client to do anything that hasn't also rebuilt my own body, my own spirit, mind, soul, all the connections. So I am a nutritionist, and the way that I am known in my community is more the juicing nutritionist because I am a functional medicine practitioner, and Laura knows all about that. Every time she asks me what to do, I'm like juice. Juice.
Yes.
It is literally the answer, and it's hard because I don't want to.
I know that is the cure for everything.
And it's just been amazing. Like we had this very strange sickness moving through. I live in Boulder, Colorado. My clinic is in Boulder, Colorado. So just to give you, I'll stick with the introduction. I help stressed and anxious clients and athletes reduce anxiety, reset the nervous system through body work with hot stones, hot towels. My hot stones are Himalayan sea salt hot stones. It's more similar to acupressure, called neurohydromolecular tissue repair, aromatherapy, heat on the table. You're on a massage table. And what this does is it allows you to get back to what you love faster because issues get stuck in the tissues. So we need to move out both emotional and physical things. So then the nutrition keeps the things moving, and herbs, either Chinese or Western, Ayurvedic, keep your chi and blood and lymph flowing between visits with a body worker. So nutrition keeps that new blood and new lymph feeding each cell. The herbs keep the chi moving where it gets stagnant and stuck. We call it kind of calcified gunk, oftentimes around the joints. It can be stress chemicals, just things get trapped in the lymph because it doesn't have a heart to pump it. So the reason nutrition, herbs, and body work are like this Chinese medicine. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner and more functional medicine, but I love Ayurvedic, Western. All of it's welcome. But the reason they're kind of a very strong triangle is because they keep things moving. And that's what we want. If stagnance is disease, then movement and vitality is health. Yeah, that's what I do, a little nutshell. But and then yeah, just the other day I've been working with other medicine women and practitioners, and I wanted to originally have a physical place, but now it's an international virtual space of practitioners. And so when I can't do something, I also have a wealth of knowledge with energy healers and people who can move the things through. Yeah. So that's how Laura and I got connected, was just being fed. I don't know if you consider yourself an alchemist, but I consider myself an alchemist and a medicine woman.
Yeah, me too. Medicine woman. I think it's what I love to use. And one of the reasons I contact you when we started, sessions together was because of my cycle, because my cycle was painful.
Yeah.
And I know that you are also in that path of healing your cycle.
Oh, yes.
And I would like to ask you, like, what did you do? What's your, cure or healing
formula? I like to say energetic hygiene formula. But yeah, a cure. I mean, it is, we can cure ourselves. So that is cool. Yeah. That word is heavy though. I don't like to use the word heavy. It's thick because people can feel like it puts pressure on them to be fixed, or now I was broken and wrong before and now I'm whole. No, you were always whole. Healing literally comes from the word helan, to be whole. That's all. And then I feel in this modern world, stress breaks us down, starts to affect liver qi stagnation, especially the liver and the kidneys and the adrenal. You might have heard of adrenal fatigue. Anyone who's listening might have heard of adrenal fatigue. In Chinese medicine, we think of that as the kidneys because it's right above the kidneys in the body, here in your back. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people in the Western world getting hit by stress, the constant demand, especially with people who identify as women or have wombs, and their moms, they're trying to do the job, they're trying to do everything, and they've been told just do everything, and it's truly more than one being can bear. This starts to break down the body. And so I believe that our menstrual cycle health, as those of us again with wombs that identify as women and bleed, our menstrual health comes from the health of the kidneys of the women who came before us. So it's not even something that is as limited to your lifestyle here. I was born in 83, so processed foods, Snickers, Coca-Cola, and also United States, Snickers, Coca-Cola, Pringles, just like Doritos, like, oh my God, like the things I think about that I ate. I mean, thank God my mom was really strict, but my dad would be like, let's just do this. And he would give me Coke and Snickers, and I'd clean his whole, he had a furniture studio, so I'd clean his whole shop because I was like high on who knows what chemicals and caffeine and sugar.
Yeah.
And I think this starts not only with processed food in our diet, but I think this again goes back to the kidney health of our grandmothers and our ancestral lineage. So I think when we take on our menstrual cycle, we're taking on breaking ancestral trauma, which I know you're connected to. I think we're taking on our, again, kidney health of the woman who bore us because our nutrient density drew from her kidneys. So for you mamas that have just had babies, your kidneys are rebuilding. Your big bag of blood, your liver, just take you over here for a second. Your liver is rebuilding. And I mean, it's pretty incredible to look at this briefly. It's kind of shining right on it. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
This is the liver. That is a big bag of blood because we're going to be talking about blood building. And for those mamas who just had babies, you're rebuilding your kidneys and your liver because that's where a lot of the power came from for you to create life. So for women who are, bleeding and have a menstrual cycle, you also are constantly building blood and needing your kidneys to be healthy and your liver to be healthy. It's not that someone who has had babies needs that more than anyone else. Everyone needs that. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because what I'm about to say about blood building is applicable to people who have just had babies, people who are nursing, for moms who are past that stage and they're simply raising the kids and they're trying to keep their stress levels down so they can have attention and energy to raise their children in this beautiful world, this new world we're all dreaming into existence, starts with our health. And so this is applicable to, women who bleed and are just working on menstrual cycles all the way to through childbirth and into child raising. So you need to build blood always, but especially during menstrual cycle leading up to it, after having babies, nursing. And there's different blood building foods that you can, and things you can do. So I know I've said a lot so far. Is there any questions? I was about to talk about energetic hygiene routine, but
Yeah, no, go ahead. I think it's really like I'm listening with all my heart open, my ears open.
No, I know, because
it's so interesting I think it would be really interesting for who is going to listen to us because I don't think we know like all these things. At least I've learned a lot from you, from having sessions with you, like about blood building and how, even being a midwife, I haven't learned these things. I haven't learned about nutrition, how it's important and how we build, how we function during the cycle and how important is to eat some food and avoid others. So yeah, I think it will be
amazing. No, it's good.
Go ahead. I'm all ears.
I know, I'm so excited. So I do feel like this is all from experience of rebuilding my body, my womb. And it's interesting. It's trapped coldness in the womb. We're going to come back to trapped coldness in the womb and digestion, blood building foods, herbs. I really do want to talk about an energetic hygiene routine and a formula you know what I mean if I explain this a little bit. You have your formula. When you're doing it, things flow. Anyone who's listening to, you know when you're not doing it and things start to break down. You even get bops from the universe. Maybe you get into a car accident, you get rear-ended, and somebody says, the universe is like, slow down. Or you get sick and you're forced to take a break, even though you didn't want to. There's ways that the universe literally stops us dead in our tracks. For me, it was overworking and being completely depleted. And I had forgotten all of my energetic hygiene, wasn't doing my yoga martial arts, wasn't doing my meditation, singing bowls, my reading my cards, connecting with spirit, watching the animals, spending time in nature, fresh air on my, my hair,
Yeah.
sun on your face. If you're in the mountains, or if you're by the ocean, you know what I mean? Just nature of any powerful kind. And so I was really overworked, and I created liver chi stagnation and adrenal fatigue and kidney exhaustion. And how this was showing up for me was such painful menstrual cycles that I couldn't even stand for the first 2 days, and I would become a completely different person. And I didn't like who I was. I was so disconnected from my joy that it's interesting. In the 5 elements Chinese medicine, the season we're in now is that red circle at the top. It's summer, and it's life, and it's the tongue speaking our truth connected to our heart. When we walk away from a conversation and we're like, dang, I wish I'd said something I didn't say, that's when our heart and our tongue are not connected. But when we're in our flow and we have a healthy menstrual cycle and all of these elements, the organs are working together, we speak our truth. It's interesting how it's deeply connected to joy and play and fun and laughter. And so I was noticing, once I started to heal and changed my community and changed my whole life, I didn't even recognize the sound of my own laugh. The first time I heard myself really laugh in a while, I was really sad and almost stunned, because I was like, did I like forget the sound of my own laugh? Like I literally had lost my joy.
Because I
So
think also
yeah,
our chakra connected to the sacral chakra connected to the womb, and it's related to sexuality, which is also joy,
it's
money,
pleasure.
abundance, pleasure. So if it's activated and flowing, of course our life it's
completely flowing. And if we are, it is interesting you say that, because then if we are women with wombs who have sex with men who have penises who literally give us their seed, their kidney essence comes in the form of their ejaculation, we're also processing all of the things we take on as a woman. There used to be sexual healers in many indigenous cultures, or warriors would come back completely disassociated and they would do sexual healing to bring them back to their bodies, right? So exactly. So we're not only processing our own lives, we're processing anything we're taking into our bodies from our partners or from others as well. And so our menstrual cycles are like a report card. They're simply going to show us. And postpartum depression, the way that we feel after a birth, that's going to be a report card. Where am I at today? Not to ever cultivate the lower vibration of shame or guilt, simply to be a marker of this is where I am. So March 2020 arrives, and I think you all remember what happened then. And life forces me to stop. And I said, I have to get back with an acupuncturist. This is nuts. I have really let this go too far. And I was doing my nutrition. That's the funny thing. I never fully gave up. But what I was doing was, you probably have heard of the Whole30. I was pretty much just eating whole foods. And I was like, yeah, sure, whole foods are fine. But they're not for everybody, because there's mucus forming foods, more oftenly talked about as inflammatory foods. But Chinese medicine takes into account the constitution of each person in that moment. So in that moment, I was clearing damp heat in every other area of my body, and I was having excessive trapped cold in my womb and my gut. And that's a lot of information. So if you just want to write that down, if you work with acupuncturists or acupressurists, functional medicine practitioners, naturopathic doctors, they can explain more what that means, because I do feel it is important to work with a practitioner like myself to dig into this. I think doing it alone is just not, it's not because you have to, it's simply you're going to miss things if we're not. And I work with a practitioner. I get supervision every 2 weeks because I want to make sure I'm doing my best. So I'm saying all this to say that this journey was really about pain. And then if you think about the pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Always within anything physical, there's a spiritual and emotional component. So for me, yeah, I wasn't aligned with my life. I wasn't aligned with my path. So I had to realign and say, I've kept my witch underground. I've basically just put a lid on her, on my alchemist, my medicine woman. And I don't know why these patriarchal things have gotten so, I don't know why. These structures and ways of being and women not being taught to let the medicine woman shine is really connected to me to a society that represses indigenous wisdom. So a lot of this is reclamation of our indigenous women. No matter what ancestral lineage you have, your ancestors were amazing because we're here. First of all, they won, which sucks. It came with a lot of violence, but we are strong because we're here, you know? So you can trust you have that. So this process is about reclamation of your energetic formula and your power and your emotional, spiritual, mental, physical health and how those are all connected. And I believe it's about fulfilling our soul contracts too. So there's no mistakes. We literally came here to do what we need to do. We get off the path. We get on the path. This human realm is hard. So get out of jail free card. I'm not like going to make anybody feel bad. But so what I want to say is my energetic formula returned to me during that time because I reclaimed it. And it consists of physical movement in the morning. Because I'm building blood, anyone who's depleted, if you're having intense pain in your menstrual cycle, that does mean you usually need to make sure you're getting enough food. So I'm having a smoothie at the moment. It's summer here in the northern hemisphere. So a part of building blood is sufficient fuel, first off. And so that's one thing. Was movement for me in the morning was martial arts and yoga, meditation, reconnecting with my kind of reattuning my spirit when I do the singing bowls, and then letting anything recycle into Gaia through my grounding cord, through picturing energy coming down your spine through your chakras and recycling into Gaia, saying anything that's no longer serving on a regular basis. Energetic health for me looks like health of a grounding cord. And if you want to work on that, Laura and I know lots of people, and Erin Orion does amazing work on all that. And so she taught me to put roses around my grounding cord, using almost the thorns of those roses to protect from any energy that would drain our field. So we also need to look at our relationships, our business partnerships. Is anyone cutting slits in our field and then literally living off of us vampirically? At that time, it was my ex. So I had to, and Erin was the one to say, you have to face this. She said, I had someone in my life doing this to me once, and you have to face that he's cut slits in your energetic field and he's feeding off you and you're allowing it. And I was like, okay. So there was that physical, emotional piece. Then there was the martial arts and the mantras, which they literally remove emotional and physical blockages and cut through lies. There are mantras that physically and energetically do this. And when our voice vibrates with their sound, we shake up energetic parasites, I would call. And there's lots of different words for energetic parasites, but what I mean is anything that is not life affirming and not with conditions for all sentient beings. So you look at the vibration of your voice and it breaks up, and eggs, you are not welcome, command you out right now. So no energetic parasites welcome through that process. Then you're thinking about the food. So you're feeding yourself, you're doing juicing. Time outside. For me, it's mountain biking. She's my bestie. And I'm not crazy. I'm not like, yeah, get all crazy. Like I literally go slow. I take breaks. I take pictures. I look at the wildflowers. I meditate. It's just time in the sun with the fresh air on your face, all the elements. Sun is fire, wind, air, earth beneath you, water, streams, lakes, ocean, rivers, whatever you have near you, fountains in your house to keep energy moving. The thing about the elements and being outside is it literally burns. If you think about vampires, they burn in the sun. Energetic parasites also cannot live inside of us if we're a host that refuses to create an environment to feed them. And then there's herbs. I really believe in herbs. I believe in the Chinese medicine style of steeping your herbs, doing it slowly, but this is a lot for a lot of people. A lot of people have a hard time being compliant with that level of intensity. So there are practitioners out there that have Chinese herbs in pill forms. There are practitioners that do more like a Western and Ayurvedic herb style, where it's like a brew. Like this one was brewed for 15 minutes, tablespoon, 8 ounces, not as much of a process. It's a mixture of milk thistle and licorice, things to support kidney and liver. So I went to the person I'm trading with, another medicine woman, and I said, I'm working on these things. And she made me an herbal formula. So I do that for my clients too. But just to sell you if you haven't done it before, a lot of you probably have, but if you, the practicality of it is usually a practitioner sits with you, they listen to what you're going through, and they make you a formula. So the herbs, I believe, totally rebuilt my kidneys and liver. I did it Chinese herbs for almost 2 years, and I've been juicing for almost 2 years daily. So I have like stayed the course, and it took a lot of commitment. And then it's, looking at my actual meals that I cook for what I need to build blood. And that's a part of the energetic hygiene. And then the other huge part is community, joy, play, feeling connected. When we are connected, we are our most authentic self. We have that web. When we're our most authentic self, we create this world we're all dreaming into being. When we're disconnected, we're sick. Isolation creates sickness.
Loneliness and depression,
postpartum depression, isolation from.
This is why I talked in previous episode about postpartum depression, and one of the reasons is because women are isolated. And most of the women that live in cities, or they don't have families around, community, they're isolated, they are by themselves, and that cause postpartum depression.
So much pain. Right? And it's unnecessary. That's what kills me, is like, I told Laura before we started, I never want another person who identifies as a woman using their womb in this way to suffer, because it is truly unnecessary. And I am the example. I just have my past 2 periods, first periods in my life, no pain, guys. I mean, pain. Light beings. I'm trying not to use the word bad. Light beings are lovely humans. I had pain, but I didn't have to take pain meds. And I do think that it's a large part due to community and staying connected, because last night we did new moon circle in my community. We do new moon and full moon circles. I can't tell you how much these fill my cup. Not only do I really love the woman who leads it, the medicine woman who made me the herbs, Sadie Schultz. She owns the Woodbury here in Colorado. If anyone listening is in Colorado and from the Blackhawk, Clear Creek, Gilpin County area. But because it keeps me connected to a community. You've heard, and this is kind of, I don't consider myself very religious. I consider myself just open to wherever the world is in all walks of life and religions, but where one or more is gathered. You may have heard that term. When we meditate with a group that is different, there is a magic to reading the cards. We're all sitting there in a circle, pulling cards, journaling. We were burning bay leaves, saying, I am safe, I am loved, I am lovable. Because when we do these kinds of clearings and intentions and reclamations of power in community, we're fed in a totally different way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how I met Laura's community. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else from my energetic formula that you've seen me do that I haven't mentioned that I feel like?
No, I would like to clarify something for people who listen, that during the menstrual cycle there is a part of periods where we build, as during our menstrual cycle we build blood, we build even the endometrium, so inside the womb it builds. And then there is a second part of the cycle, if you don't get pregnant, where actually is the clearing part, where the body is getting ready to clear out the blood that we build. And for some women, of people who have womb or bleed, it might be painful for many, many reasons. And you talked about that: stress, disconnection, the foods that we eat because we don't clear our main organs like kidneys or liver. And also, like, some bloods get stagnant inside the
Yes.
womb, and so
Yes.
get
Oh,
trapped.
let's talk about that. Yes.
And so because we don't clear, our vitality gets stuck inside us.
Seriously, we're a container. It's amazing.
And then we don't clear it, and everything is stuck inside, and toxins, stress, and
Growth
so
hormones.
so
Yes.
what you know also help people doing is, and but you say that it's just to clarify so that people don't,
Yeah.
who
Let's
doesn't
get
know.
more into that.
Yeah.
Let's go more into the actual nutrition, and let's get more into what that does. So I like that. Thank you for that focus. So a womb can be a place of creativity and life, or it can literally be a storage unit for crap. And that's what Laura is pointing to, is it can become stress hormones. I hate my job. I hate my boss.
Yeah.
That person cut me off. It can just be a container. She's right. It gets trapped. So let's talk about blood building foods. So when we build blood, the first part of the cycle, you're right, and we don't get pregnant. Let's just talk about not getting pregnant for a moment in a full cycle. We're building bloods with foods like bison. If you eat meat, if you're vegan, I love you. Believe me, I want to be vegan. I want a world where we're not so blood deficient, where vegan is sufficient. Right now, for me, because of the demands of the modern world, it's not enough. And I eat fish when I'm by the ocean. I eat bison, chicken, turkey, mostly. I don't eat pork, and I can talk about why if you want to, but but rarely. So blood building foods for that first part of the cycle are important because, like she's saying, we have to have healthy blood to be able to shed. But also in these blood building foods, they're also cleansing foods. That's what's so cool about the blood building foods, is when you talk about dark leafy greens and juicing. So the vegetable juice that I do, is it helpful if I share my screen quickly and show some things, or maybe just talk about it? I don't think I want to share the screen, actually. It doesn't feel right.
Okay.
Never mind, I answered my own question. So in my juicing, I'm not juicing like, oh, this is a smoothie, this is fruit. I'm doing radish, purple cabbage, dark leafy greens like purple kale, collard greens, rainbow chard, scallions, onions, ginger. These are warming, as well as cilantro and parsley and lemon or lime, which are cooling. So I'm doing a mixture of, for basically if someone has excess heat or excess cold, this juicing will clear and help to support, rebuild the liver and the kidneys, clear adrenal fatigue, and cleanse the womb of things that are stuck there. Because she's right, when things are stuck there, we often have pain. And also I want to talk about energetic things like cysts and having these like things that are normalized. I think all of this is emotional and physical as well. And I think that these can be cleared through things like juicing, herbs. The reason we get regular body work too, and by regular, I mean once a week or twice a month, because it is that important to clear stagnants. When we get fresh blood and lymph flow from either an acupuncture needle or acupressure or massage, something that physically moves issues from the tissues, we clear what's in our womb, especially if that practitioner has an awareness of, wombs, how they work, how things get stuck, which most acupuncturists and people who've studied Chinese medicine, herbs, or Ayurvedic medicine have. They've studied the importance of breathing. They know why we need oxygen to each cell. So if you notice, I'm trying to slow myself down and remember to breathe because I get excited. So oxygen to each cell, fresh blood and lymph. We're doing what Laura was saying. We're cleansing any stagnants out of our womb. And that helps us not to have pain, cramps, and as much of the crankiness. Oh, but the crankiness, is that juicing? Yes, the juicing is helpful for that too, because anytime we clear and cleanse and the body is moving and the organs, what she means by stagnants is that the organs are literally built of healthy cells. We're going to move through the world with more energy. But when our organs are sluggish, we're just not. We're not going to be our best selves. We're going to be in pain. We're going to have issues in the tissues. So
yeah, not much energy and
not much energy. Just feeling like crap. So everything I'm doing and talking about is to help you be your most vital self. You're having fun. You have a good sense of humor. Because we were talking last night in Moon Circle about the severity that comes. Do you ever notice how you get more severe and more serious?
Yeah.
Things aren't flowing. Our natural state is flexibility. And rigidity and perfectionism are a really good indication that the spleen is also stagnant, because the spleen is in charge of transportation and transformation of nutrients. So taking this fresh, healthy blood to the cells. So when the kidneys get hurt, when the liver gets hurt, it's like a pipe gets clogged and the blood and lymph can't flow, and then it affects digestive issues, IBS, Crohn's, bloating. You know, we've been taught that bloating is a natural part of pregnancy and menstrual cycles. No, it's not. Absolutely not. And then this fat that we tend to collect around our midsection and feel really bad about ourselves, that's cortisol, that's excess stress hormones as well. So the juicing cleanses and heals all.
Yeah.
And when you juice matters. So this is where working with someone like myself is important, because if you're building blood and you have coldness trapped in your womb and digestion, if you juice cold on a cold stomach in a cold winter month, you're literally trying to light a fire and you're using wet green wood. Everything is cold and the fire is not going to light, right? So we need to work on our digestive fire. So I eat like a curry meal, spices, ginger, all those curry spices, warming. This warms my digestive fire, starts to clear that excess coldness from the digestion. But it also starts to support me building blood, because my stomach is ready to break down and absorb food. So then I juiced after that. But some people who have a different constitution, where maybe they're feeling a little more sluggish, they kind of feel like they're not actually blood deficient. Maybe they have a little bit of excess and they feel a little stagnant. They might need to get up in the morning and move before they eat. They might need to juice on an empty stomach in summer. It depends where your constitution and what your goals are and what's going on, how you juice. And I think that's the reason juicing has got such a bad rap of, oh, I tried it, it didn't work. It's because you didn't actually have a practitioner guiding you how to build blood sufficiently for you and where you are with juice and with food. That's a lot.
Yeah. And if someone get pregnant, how does it change, with the pregnancy?
And with building blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to build blood. I mean, imagine, right? You're building a human. So build blood all day instead of like the first 2 weeks building blood and eating. I eat lots of buffalo, right? Like right before the cycle, during the cycle, around the cycle, after the cycle. And then I'll move towards lighter foods in the middle of the month, fish, chicken, cleansing, lots of vegetables for cleansing. But if you're pregnant, you're kind of constantly in that need to build and keep that kidney and liver sufficient. So if you eat meat, if you even eat chicken liver, if you can find a healthy liver I would really have to say that at this point, to talk about blood building, it has to be pasture raised animals, which I know this is a level of privilege that most of the world cannot participate in. If we have the level of privilege that I have here, which I'm very grateful for in my home, or I can go to local farms and get like a chicken liver from someone who's literally eating bugs out of a symbiotic relationship with bison or cows, or they're eating the bugs that grow in those cow pastures and waste, a particular kind of bug that makes chickens' eggs bright gold, beautiful health. Chicken liver is really supportive. So a chicken liver pate is kind of like old school, but oh my God, it's so supportive for women who are pregnant, but especially women
Postpartum, no?
Postpartum and breastfeeding, because it's so nutrient dense.
I always advise liver
yeah.
for them, because it's pretty good for building everything that you need to build everything speed and postpartum rebuild, actually.
But you can also do it around your cycle, after your cycle. Like if you're physically moving enough, because it's very calorically dense. So it's good, again, for what she's talking about, because of how many calories are used. I mean, isn't it true that I was taught that you burn more calories breastfeeding than even when you're pregnant?
Yes.
Right. So she's absolutely right that this is a powerful time. But if you're burning a lot of calories, if you're very physically active, you can even do that to rebuild after your cycle for a couple of days. And it's yummy. I love it. But so for sure, if you eat meat, bison is such a clean meat, because they don't, cows can be grain finished, which means that they can say that it was pasture raised, but grain finished, which means that the cow's stomach is really not designed to eat grains. and they're forcing something upon it that's not natural. And so cow can be such a tricky subject, but bison are a little more clean. Actually, for a while, there was bison coming from Australia. So I think most of us in natural grocery stores and organic grocery stores have the ability to access bison. If you don't, stick with a pasture raised cow, but try to have it say 100% pasture raised, both in eggs and meat. Very good thing to talk about is that no one talks about. I love eggs. I think eggs are a brilliant food, balance of protein and fat, but they can be mucus forming, which means that if you're a clearing dampness diet like I was, and your pain in your menstrual cycle is sharp and intense, that probably means you're clearing dampness, and eggs can be causing inflammation in your gut and thus in your womb. And so I have a list of dampening or inflammatory foods that cause excess mucus. And when we have excess mucus, it becomes calcified gunk, which just means hardened gunk. And that's when we have the blood flow problem. So another thing to think about when you're building a baby is that a womb building a baby has a lot of mucus to it. So you have to be very careful. Right here on my poster, there are key points to avoid during pregnancy. And you can't see that, but I know I can't hit the points that clear mucus with my acupressure with a pregnant woman, because her womb, the actual baby, right, is a big bag of mucus in a lot of ways. So we have to be thoughtful when we're pregnant and postpartum that we're clearing mucus, but we also are building a certain amount of mucus that is needed. So you have to be careful of excess mucus forming or inflammatory foods, because it'll just make you have more pain. You'll be like, oh, my side hurts, my organs are being squished, I can't sleep, my feet are swollen, my ankles are swollen. All of this can be aggravated by something like eggs, where we were like, well, that's a whole food. I thought I was doing the right thing, but you might be. It just depends on where your constitution is. And that egg or that honey even, or avocado or coconut, things that are whole foods, they're mucus forming foods. So we want to just be aware. Cutting through mucus happens with yang foods like garlic, onions, spice, black pepper. So if you are going to eat a guacamole, just put tons of garlic in it if you can tolerate that. But if you have IBS, yeah, I mean, it's so good. Or basil or pesto. But if you can't tolerate spice and can't tolerate, you have to think about that with IBS symptoms or Crohn's or hernias or ulcers. You have to be very careful with spice, I understand. So if you can tolerate yang foods like garlic, onions, yeah, again, guacamole, pesto, just thinking, yeah, I mean, it's wonderful for your body, but just being aware, even chickpeas, right? I never knew this about hummus, but chickpeas are mucus forming, can be slightly. So when I eat my chickpeas now and my hummus, I simply put jalapeno and garlic and cilantro with it. And then I know I'm doing everything for my body, whether you're pregnant or not, but especially when you're pregnant, if you're gonna eat things like hummus, which I hope you do, because it's a great food, if you like it. It's just something to cut through. And if you get acid reflux, that is an indication something's out of balance. That's rebellious chi. Doesn't mean you can't eat spicy food. It simply means you need to address the inflammation underlying that issue.
And a question for you: when do you think when pregnant woman who has digestive problem, or and it happens quite often, you know, women have either nausea and vomiting at the beginning, or they have hypersalivation, or they have you know, burning sensation in the stomach. Do you think that's related with hormones, foods, or pre-pregnancy, like maybe pre-pregnant, how they were eating before?
Exactly. We never taught this. Yes.
Yeah, what's your thought about that?
That's so important. So honestly, in a perfect world, which again, come on, all my friends who have had babies, my sister, like, were they like, oh, I was working with a nutritionist for 9 months leading up to my pregnancy, and I was getting acupuncture every week, and I had no stress, and I lived on the beach in the bungalow. Yeah. No, like a lot of my pregnant women clients and friends and family have not had some perfect life. I get that we're living, so we do our best. And yet, ideally, we would have 9 months to prepare to even get pregnant. And there's a reason indigenous cultures prepared pregnant women and literally fed them. They were like, okay, here's our village. These are the women coming up about to keep our human species going. Prioritizing feeding them the highest quality food of anyone in the village, as well as the men who were going to, again, be the seed. But we were prioritized because we needed to build that storage because, again, the baby is built off our kidney health and our health in general. So leading up to it, if you are someone who's hoping to get pregnant and you have the time and space and privilege in your life to do this, don't feel guilty. Say thank you and do it. You know, take the time to build your nutrient storage up before you get pregnant. Like I just thought of a dentist, Weston A. Price from the 30s. He studied indigenous people based off of nutrition. So he was so fascinated by all this privilege and the Western world, and we had the worst teeth of anybody. He was like, what's going on? Why do we have so much money and so much privilege and we're so unhealthy? And he was the first dentist to really start digging into this. Well, he was a white male, so who knows? Probably other people did first, but he was the first one to be recognized. So he went to indigenous cultures, not where you could get by a plane, where most people could get, where you had to hike in for days and camp along the way to get to this place in Switzerland or in the Inuit cultures. And he studied this woman who had 26 children, an Inuit woman, and she was eating seal fat and like nutrient dense, barely any vegetables, but she was so nutrient dense. And she had one tooth that fell out. He's like, okay, so she had a little bit of those babies pulled up. No, the tooth had gotten knocked out. It wasn't even because she was so nutrient dense, her teeth were perfect, smiling. She has this beautiful face in the book. And what it goes to show is that indigenous wisdom knew we had to build up our storage in order to have the most beneficial pregnancy possible. Now, again, we're in our modern world. So what do? If you can work on your digestion, simply eating warm cooked foods before you get pregnant, eating more soups, eating more white rice, things that are very soothing, eating a lot of steamed veggies, things that are easily absorbable. I say warm cooked foods because they're more easily absorbable. Even if you could just get your digestion to a little bit of a better place before pregnancy or even during, you can start doing this during. You'll notice in a few months that the nausea, and if you have nausea, white rice is amazing. Simple steamed white rice with a little bit of ghee, because it's one of the only foods that the body doesn't require certain enzymes to break down. So it's really helpful. People often go towards toast and crackers. And the only thing I don't love about that is that the gluten is just so mucus forming. And so it's going to make the inflammation in your gut worse. It's going to feel good in that moment, but ultimately it's going to make your gut feel worse while you're pregnant. So what do you think
My
of
God, so much information and really good. I think people will find it really, really interesting what you're sharing. What about postpartum? What do you think? What's your best advice you can give?
Okay, so the precursor to neurotransmitters and hormones is fat and protein. So again, if you are someone who's intentional and has the ability to be intentional, and that is not a judgment. I was raised working class. Sometimes I was waitressing and bartending till like 2 a.m. It was not intentional, right? So if you have the ability to have a lifestyle that's intentional and you can build your protein and hormone healthy fat storage up before you get pregnant, during pregnancy, and after, what you're doing is preventing and supporting your mental health, your emotional and mental health. You're supporting, giving a protection of your best shot for your best foot forward at supporting yourself to not crash as hard during postpartum, because neurotransmitters and hormones are built from healthy fat and healthy protein, but that also requires a healthy digestive system to break that protein down and properly absorb and assimilate. So that's why it's not just what you eat, the way you talk to yourself, the way you live your life, that affects your digestion and your ability to absorb and assimilate nutrients. So that's why I say it's about how you live as a whole. But and staying connected to communities is a huge part. Definitely making sure that you are not isolated. So connection to community, healthy digestion, getting body work as often as you can, and will help against postpartum, because again, you're flowing, your system's flowing. And if your system's flowing, you're going to create healthier neurotransmitters and hormones as well. And I absolutely think that nutrition is the base of our hormonal and our mental health. And our gut health, we've all heard that gut brain connection. That's like old news now. But if it's new to any of you, there's tons of studies around that connection of gut brain health, and healthy emotional mental health comes from our nutrition and our digestion.
Yeah, very important. Yes, thank you for reminding us. I have a last question, and here it's going dark.
I love that the sun goes down while we're talking. That's so cool.
So, for example, I want your opinion on that. I'm gonna explain a little bit my personal experience. When we have body signal, you know, for example, if in my cycle, I know that just before my cycle, I know I don't like meat. I don't like eating meat much. But it's happening, especially in the last 6 months, that before, like, I'm bleeding, my body craves meat.
Yeah.
And so when we have this body signal, how can we interpret them? Like, is it something that, and I usually tend to, you know, follow my body. I'm sure many people have that, might be during menstrual cycle, in pregnancy, postpartum. I'm sure the body has its own intelligence and just trying to send signal.
Yes.
How can we, like, when we have this strong signal about what to eat, or especially around food, how can we, you know, navigate this? How can we follow what the body needs? Or maybe, you know, it's something like there is a hidden message, because maybe it's something, it means something that I don't know. And how, of course, working with a practitioner is really important. Yeah, but what does it mean? I sometimes I ask myself this question: what does it mean my body is asking me this? And
then what is it connected to? I love that
yeah,
question. That's beautiful. Well, first of all, it's good to mention intuitive eating, and then talk about emotional eating too, that a lot of times we eat to ground our root chakra, or ground us when we're feeling sad or not complete. And so that's an issue to address for sure. When we're feeling, we ask ourselves when we're having a craving, is this basically coming from a balanced place in me, or is this coming from an emotional place in me? And what do I need? If it's emotional, can I ask for help? Can I call a friend? Can I ask my partner? Can I ask someone in my family? But if it's a genuine, like a meat craving, intuitive eating is to follow what your body is saying. But also, yes, I love what you're saying. It goes to 5 elements Chinese medicine, because the bitter flavor supports the fire element, which is the heart and the small intestine. So small intestine is absorption, heart is joy, and the heart pumping blood. So if you're craving bitter, you can be like, there's emotions to that, there's reasons to that, and follow it. If you're craving sour, the liver likes sour. The liver is connected to the eyes. So if you're having styes or eye infections, this is the body. You're right. The body is constantly trying to speak. And if you're like, man, I just want to squeeze lemon on everything I eat, and I want to have lemon water. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to say. Drinking lots of water is also huge in all this, electrolytes and water. But I know you know that. So some people do the lemon squeeze in their water. That's an amazing way to support the liver. And so if you're craving something like sour, know, oh, hey, that's my body's intelligence supporting my liver and building blood, big bag of blood, cleansing, detoxing. And then the emotion with the liver is anger and frustration. So anger is a need that is not being met, a boundary, a defined boundary in our life that needs to be drawn. And that needs to happen through the love and attention of those around us. So you can always say, okay, if I'm angry or frustrated, that can also be an indication. If I'm craving sour, I'm trying to clear and speak for my needs. So many ways to interpret that. Kidneys, adrenal glands, bladder is salt, salty foods. We do have to be careful, because you want to have a sea salt because it has electrolytes in it. You want all those minerals, right? And then you don't want excess salt because it throws off the sodium, potassium pump in the body. Everything has a balance, right? But if you're craving salt, also that can help us, that can be retaining water. So that can be tricky around pregnancy. When again, we're talking about a womb creating a being, retention of water, inflammation, mucus. We do have to be careful with salt. And then around our periods, we can oftentimes be like, I want pizza, or we want something really salty
Or
and fatty,
sugary.
or
Like,
sugar. Oh, well, I was going to get to sugar. Sugar is a huge one.
yeah.
So I'm just going through the elements in my head in the cycle. But yeah, sugary, we crave sugar is the earth element, self-love. Because what is breast milk? Is breast milk sweet?
It's sweet. It's love.
Sweet. It's wonderful. Breast milk is sweet. The first time we felt love and connection, if we were breastfed, which I was, thank goodness, I'm very grateful for that. I had midwives and doulas, and I'm so grateful. So that breast milk is love. Sweetness is the craving of ourselves. We want ourselves, and we want community and connection, love and support. If you have a partner, you know, of course, reach out to them, but you're craving yourself. So knowing if you're gonna go eat the chocolate ice cream and you have fruit, fine, then do the fruit. If you're gonna eat something, do the fruit. But knowing that that's usually emotional. There's something much deeper going on with that craving. I know for me, just recently, with some money stress, because money, womb, sexism, patriarchal structures, it's all connected. I was having money stress and I hadn't had sugar, emotional eating in a long time. And I was craving sugar and emotionally really wanting to emotionally eat sugar. And I was like, this is some old, stagnant ancestral trauma around lack and scarcity and not being able to see my value and worth clearly, because man, I've been doing really well with this for years and this is back like boom. And that's that energetic parasite. It'll try to feed off of us in those moments. So that's how we know, okay, I'm craving something sweet, but really what I'm craving is love and kindness.
Yeah.
Loving kindness.
And without beating ourselves up, but lots of compassion towards ourselves.
Yes, because this is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
a lot. There's so much that we're dealing with. So the last element to talk about is, oh yeah, and then with earth, just finishing earth, it's singing, it's the mouth. So it can definitely be connected to if you're getting sores, if you're getting any sores in your mouth, you know, that can be a sign that like you'd be really good to balance out the other elements and eat more of the sour and the bitter foods to support your earth element. And then the metal element is the large intestine and lung, grief, sadness, speaking our truth, letting go. The large intestine is on this channel, in the face. So it's acne in certain places. Acne here is definitely reproductive, sacral chakra, mental, menstrual. But here is the large intestine. So yeah, again, letting go, grief.
Yeah.
And that loves spicy food. So that's interesting that you can almost, do you ever feel like if you sit in grief and kind of spiral down into depression, that almost does become like a damp space? There's almost a kava imbalance to that. It's like a muddy quality, and spice just cuts through that mucus forming inflammation. So if you're feeling that grief, a little bit of pick me up, a little bit of black pepper, you know, if you're craving something spicy, again, pay attention to the digestive health, acid reflux, IBS. But if you have the ability to tolerate spice, garlic, onions, black pepper, and you're craving it, that's because your body's trying to cut through, whether even if it's a heavy or thick emotional feeling or inflammation, your body is trying to tell you. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yes, amazing. Yeah. And is there anything else, Amelia, that we've talked about a lot?
I know this is a lot, you guys. Like
so much really yummy information. And is there anything, just to conclude, that you want to share? I'm going dark. I don't know, like my curtain just changed the direction, and now everything is dark here. So is there anything that you want to share with us before closing? Any of your wisdom? Not that you didn't share, you shared a lot.
No, that was my story. That's truly my story. And I'm so grateful that my menstrual cycle is something I can be friends with now. Because what I think the last thing I would say is that it's really been about my emotional journey of how I treat myself.
Yeah.
Really been about my self-worth, asking for help getting regular support with a clairvoyant soul doula healer on tapping and how I speak to myself, and getting regular body work. And then daily noticing, am I being, would I talk to Laura this way? Would I talk to anyone I love this way? That I'm that coolness, and knowing that the critical voice, I had an art teacher who had us make a judge and put it outside the room. That it's really important to say, thank you, critical voice. I know you came for a reason and you came to protect me, and yet I'm good. I'm actually going to cultivate and create mental grooves and neuro pathways through speaking to myself and treating myself differently.
And feel safety inside.
In safety.
Yeah.
I've been working, I'm going to tell you just honestly, I've been working on a dream seed that is, I'm inviting in support, anything that needs to be healed, released, aligned, brought to my awareness so that I can be my authentic, fully grounded, dragon heart, self-trust, and knowing my lovability and value, getting what I want and need. And a lot of things have cleared out of my life. So when you ask for these kinds of things, you have to be ready that if things are not serving you, a job, a relationship, an environment, a city, things will start to change and you won't be able to go back. So it's really about this inner world and about asking and getting support on that gentleness and kindness. I would say that has been the root of all of this.
Yeah, and that's for everyone, no matter if you are pregnant, postpartum, bleeding or not bleeding, menopause.
Menopause, perimenopause. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing we didn't mention. Gosh, but all of those things I was talking about with juicing and the hormones, it's very applicable to peri and hormone health in general. Perimenopause or menopause. Yeah, night sweats, all of those things. So it's a report card, and but I think that it's really good to come back to. It's about our inner world. It's really, I can do all the perfect things because I've done it with perfectionism, exercise with perfectionism, eaten with perfectionism, and it never worked because of how I was driving myself.
Yeah. Thank you for all this wisdom. Thank you. Thank you for being part of Mother Tales. And yeah, thank you, Amelia, for being here.
Laura, for all that you're doing. It was such an honor when you asked me. I was like, oh, I love this.
You see, it was so much wisdom you shared. It was amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so grateful. So, thank you.